stock market, which some people use like a gambling parlor. And the transactions of the people who love the gambling parlor aspect of the business and those who want to make long-term investments to take care of their old age and so forth. I mean, you muddle that in one market, and it goes out of control because the stock market becomes an ideal gambling parlor activity. If I were the dictator of the world, I would have some kind of a tax on short-term gains that made the stock market very much less liquid and drove out this marriage of gambling parlor and legitimate capital development of the country.
Excessive monetary and fiscal stimulus over the last 2 years has triggered the highest inflation in 40 years. Do you broadly agree with this thesis? And more importantly, do you think there will be a high economic price to pay as the Fed attempts to bring inflation back under control?
We've done something pretty extreme, and we don't know how bad the troubles will be, whether we're going to be like Japan or something a lot worse. What makes life interesting is we don't know how it's going to work out. I think we do know we're flirting with serious trouble. Think of how seductive it is. You have a bunch of interest-bearing debts, and you pay them off with checking accounts, which you're no longer paying interest. Think of how seductive that is for a bunch of legislators. You get rid of the interest payments, and the money supply goes up. Mungers have Berkshire stock, Costco stock, Chinese stocks through Lilu, a little bit of Daily Journal stock, and a bunch of apartment houses. Do I think that's perfect? No. Do I think it's okay? Yes. The great lesson from the Mungers is you don't need all this damn diversification. You're lucky if you've got 4 good assets. If you're trying to do better than average, you're lucky if you have 4 things to buy. To ask for 20 is really asking for egg in your beer. It's very few people can have enough brains to get 20 good investments. I would not predict that our modern politicians will be as willing to permit a new Volcker to get that tough with the economy and bring on that kind of a recession. So I think the new troubles are likely to be different from the old troubles. The economy sometimes booms and sometimes it doesn't. And you have to live your life through both episodes. Because we just keep swimming, and sometimes the tide is with us and sometimes against, but we keep swimming either way. But I've had my Berkshire stock decline by 50% 3 times, and it doesn't bother me that much. If you have my attitude, it doesn't really matter. I always like Kipling's expression in that poem called If, and he said, success and failure, he says, treat those 2 imposters just the same. You just roll with it. Sometimes it's going for you and some against, and it's all part of the same game. When a business with a reputation for being tough and a manager with an opportunity for being brilliant get together, he says, it's the reputation of the business that remains. If they start tough, they stay tough.
Please elaborate on what's going on in commercial real estate. How bad will the losses be, and what sectors or geographies look particularly bad?
Well, Berkshire's never been very active in commercial real estate. It works better for taxable investors than it does for corporations taxed the way Berkshire is. So I don't anticipate huge effects on Berkshire, but I do think that the hollowing out of the downtowns in the United States and elsewhere in the world is going to be quite significant and quite unpleasant. I think the country will get through it all right, but as they say, it will often involve a different set of owners. You don't want to make important decisions in anger. You want to display as much ruthlessness as your duty requires, and you do not want to add one single iota because you're angry. So Tom Murphy, one of our best directors, always told the people at Cap Cities, you can always tell a man to go to hell tomorrow if it's such a good idea. So the anger part of it, and I don't think it was wrong to remember the man's virtues as well as his error. I did find it amusing. One of these extreme efficient market theorists explained Warren for many, many years as an anomaly of luck. And he got to 6 sigmas, 6 standard deviations of luck. And then people started laughing at him because 6 6 sigmas of luck is a lot. So he changed his theory. Now Warren has 6 or 7 sigmas of skill.
Oh.
So you see,
I'd rather have the 6 sigmas of luck, actually.
the one thing he couldn't bear to leave was his 6 sigmas.
Additional suggestions for reading in the fields of investing and management, other than the standards of Graham and Fisher and so forth?
I have recently read a new book twice, which I very seldom do, and that book is Guns, Germs, and Steel by Jared Diamond. And it's a marvelous book, and the way the guy's mind works would be useful in business. He's got a mind that is always asking why, and he's very good at coming up with answers. I would say it's the best work of its kind I have ever read. In any company, the stock could get to a price so high it would be foolish for the corporation to repurchase its shares.
Sure.
And you can even get into gross abuse. Before the crash, the Insul utilities were madly buying their own shares as a way of promoting the stock higher. It was like a giant Ponzi scheme at the end. So there's all kinds of excess that's possible, but the really great companies that buy at high price earnings rate, that can be wise. If the float keeps growing, that is a wonderful thing indeed. We really have a marvelous insurance business. In addition to having this remarkable earning power, it's way less likely to get really clobbered than most insurance businesses. So I think it's safer on the downside and has a better upside. If I owned Japan, I would want a large holding of U.S. Treasuries. You're on an island nation without much in the way of national resources. I think their policy is quite intelligent for Japan, and I'd be very surprised if they dumped all their treasuries. The way that is taught in most business schools now, I find incoherent, and so I'm the one that asks that question and gets the incoherent answers. I don't have a good answer to a question I consider kind of a stupid question.
That doesn't really
What is the
apply to it.
cost of capital at Berkshire Hathaway when we keep drowning in this torrent of cash which we have to reinvest?